If you've ever missed dumplings on a carnivore diet, these might surprise you. Crispy edges, juicy filling, and nothing that doesn't belong. For the wrapper dough, we'll be using 1½ cups of cubed chicken breast with all of the fat trimmed, 1 large egg, 3 to 5 tablespoons of egg white powder, and we'll adjust this for texture, 1½ tablespoons of unflavored gelatin, 1/4 teaspoon of collagen powder. Now this is optional, but it does provide some elasticity. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 tablespoon of bone broth powder, 1½ ounces of cream cheese, a pinch of salt, and 2 to 4 tablespoons of warm water. This will help loosen the dough at the very end. For the filling, we'll be using 1 pound of ground pork, 1 large egg, a tablespoon of bone broth for added flavor, 1/2 teaspoon of unrefined salt, 1 pound of finely diced raw shrimp, a tablespoon of melted tallow or bacon grease, and 1 tablespoon of fish sauce with no added sugar. I choose to use the Red Boat and Squid brands for their clean makeup. Just take a quick look at the label and make sure it's made from anchovies and salt only, with no added sugar, MSG, preservatives, or colorants. A clean fish sauce adds depth and umami without making the dumplings taste fishy. This keeps the flavor clean and savory without overpowering the dumplings. In a food processor, blend the chicken, salt, baking soda, bone broth powder, and collagen until smooth. Using chicken as a base keeps these dumplings high in protein and easy to digest. The collagen helps give the mixture structure while also supporting the joints, skin, and connective tissue. A small amount of bone broth adds minerals and natural umami without needing any fillers. And the baking soda helps keep the texture tender so the dumplings stay light instead of dense. Next, add the cream cheese and the egg. While the mixture is blending, we'll gradually add the egg white powder and then the gelatin powder until a thick, spreadable dough forms. You might notice I'm making a double batch here. I like to batch cook so I can have these dumplings ready to go for the next few days. And finally, add the warm water 1 tablespoon at a time until you have a pliable paste. At this point, the mixture should look thick and sticky, similar to a soft dough. It may cling slightly to your hands, but it should still hold together well and be easy to shape. For this next step, I'm using a tortilla press. But if you don't have one, a rolling pin works just fine. You can even press the dough flat with a cookie sheet. I like the tortilla press because it's quick and it gives a nice, even circle every time. The goal here is to get the dough thin and evenly shaped, not to make it perfect. And I'll be using 4-inch unbleached parchment rounds. I like to choose unbleached parchment whenever possible since it helps minimize any unnecessary chemicals transferring into the food while it heats. To portion out the dough, I'm using a small fruit scoop with a trigger. You can also use a 1/2 tablespoon measuring spoon. It just takes a little bit more time. And finally, you'll need somewhere to place the uncooked wrappers. I'm just using a cookie sheet here. Take a small scoop of the dough, about 1/2 tablespoon, and place it between the 2 sheets of parchment. Then just press it out using a tortilla press, or roll it with a rolling pin until you have a thin 3 to 4 inch round. And then continue this process with the rest of the dough. As you work through the dough, set aside about 1/3 cup of raw mixture. We will use this later to help seal the edge of the dumpling wrapper when it's time to assemble them. And now we're ready for the next step, cooking the rounds. Keep your hot water between 190 and 200 degrees Fahrenheit so that the wrappers set properly without overcooking. This gentle heat helps them firm up while staying tender and flexible. Gently drop each round into the hot water and let it sit for about 10 seconds, just until the surface firms up. You'll notice the wrapper starts to turn slightly opaque as it sets. At this point, it should still feel soft and flexible, not stiff. This is what makes the wrapper easy to fold without cracking. If it feels too soft, you can give it another second or two in the water. For the full recipe card and instructions, please visit carnivorecollections.com. Once it's ready, gently lift the wrapper out and let any excess water drip off. We'll set it aside to cool slightly before filling. And here we have our cooked wrappers. I'm just peeling away the parchment and layering them on a plate as I work through the next batch. I usually cook about a dozen at a time and reuse the parchment, which really helps cut down on waste. You'll notice the wrappers stay soft and flexible as they cool. This makes them much easier to fill when you're ready to assemble the dumplings. And now it's time to make the filling. In a bowl, we'll combine the pork, shrimp, egg, fish sauce, tallow or bacon grease, bone broth, and a little salt. Mix everything together until it starts to feel slightly sticky. That's what helps keep this filling juicy and tender when it cooks. The pork brings these dumplings richness, while the shrimp adds a light sweet contrast. The egg and tallow or bacon grease help bind everything together and keep the filling from drying out. And the bone broth powder adds an extra layer of savory flavor without needing anything artificial. To mix everything together evenly, I'm going to use my hands, and I'll be wearing blue nitrile gloves for this. It just makes it easier to work with the mixture and bring everything all together without it sticking too much. You want everything to feel well combined and slightly tacky. That's how you know when the filling is ready to use. And here we have our cooked wrappers ready to be assembled. I'm working with a double batch here, which is why you're seeing so many of them. Here we have some of the raw wrapper dough that was set aside from the first step and will be used to seal the dumplings. Add about half a tablespoon of filling right into the center of each wrapper. Use a small amount of raw dough along the seam that will act as a sealant, and then fold it in half and gently pinch or crimp the edges until it's sealed. You don't have to be perfect here. As long as the edges are sealed, the dumpling will hold together beautifully. Heat some bacon grease or tallow in a skillet over medium heat. Place the dumplings into the pan in a single layer with the flat side facing down. Let them cook for about 5 minutes on each side until the bottoms have turned beautifully golden brown. You will start to hear a gentle sizzle as they crisp up. The browning adds so much flavor and gives these dumplings a really satisfying texture. Try not to move them too much so that they have time to form that nice crust. Once they are fully cooked, take them off the heat so that the outside does not overbrown. This helps keep the dumplings tender on the inside while the edges stay nicely crisp. These carnivore dumplings are crisp on the outside and tender and juicy on the inside, with layers of flavor in every bite. The dumplings are great on their own, but if you would like to try these with a dipping sauce, you can find a few carnivore-friendly options at carnivorecollections.com. And you can use the link in the description below to go directly to this recipe page. Cutting one open shows just how soft and flavorful the filling really is. It's satisfying without being heavy, which makes it enjoyable again and again. If you enjoyed cooking along with me today, you can like the video or subscribe to see more carnivore recipes like this. I would love to have you back in the kitchen with me again real soon.